This lesson is about the relationship between plate tectonics and earthquakes. We will be looking at what causes faults and how faults move, why faults cause earthquakes, and we'll learn about elastic rebound theory.
San Francisco is home to over 7 million people. They're all sitting on a tectonic time bomb. 2 big earthquakes, one in 1906, another in 1989, nearly destroyed the city. The cost of the disasters, more than 3,000 dead, and over $6 billion worth of damage. Engineers in San Francisco are working hard to stop tragedies like this from happening again. An army of workers is improving bridges, anchoring homes, and upgrading the transport systems to make the city earthquake-proof. One of their greatest challenges is to build skyscrapers that stay standing when the earth moves. The tallest one in town is the Transamerica Pyramid, towering 850 feet above the city. Its skin is made of almost 4,000 glass windows and thousands of tons of concrete and crushed quartz, sheltering the 1,500 people who work in this colossus. They need all the protection they can get, as just a few miles away is the source of all the big earthquakes in San Francisco. It's the San Andreas Fault, the bane of California. A team of geologists is on a mission to track the fault with extreme precision.
This is an image looking down the San Andreas Fault with San Francisco located here. However, in just looking at this image, it's actually difficult to see where the fault might actually be.
The team's plane is equipped with LiDAR, a laser that scans the ground with an accuracy of 6 inches.
This laser shoots 100,000 shots per second and can be used to directly illuminate the ground surface by penetrating through the vegetation to show the ground surface below.
LiDAR strips away bushes and trees, even houses, to reveal the true landscape below.
When we overlay the LiDAR imagery that illuminates the bare ground surface, we can clearly see the location of the San Andreas Fault as this gash in the landscape that runs right next to San Francisco.
Two colliding continental plates create this tear in the landscape. Sliding on top of hot magma, they slowly crunch past each other. The landscape above breaks apart and forms the San Andreas Fault.
In this area, the Pacific and North American plates are moving roughly about 35 millimeters per year relative to one another. In some places, the San Andreas Fault actually moves continuously over time, whereas in other places, such as right here, the San Andreas is actually stuck or locked.
The continental plates never stop moving. So where the fault is locked, extreme tension builds up in the rocks. They bend and stretch until they shatter and unleash a barrage of shock waves and earthquake.
San Francisco is in a little bit of a precarious position. You can't relocate a city. And so you just have to try and prepare the city as best you can.
Earthquakes are one of nature's most devastating events. They occur when a large buildup of stress within Earth's crust is suddenly released. Why does this happen? The answer is elastic rebound theory. Elastic rebound theory explains how energy is stored in rocks and released by earthquakes. This energy is transferred through rocks, causing them to move, which we experience as an earthquake. Earth's crust is made of giant plates of rock that float on the underlying mantle and slide past each other. The plates grind against each other along their edges in areas called fault zones. There's friction between the plates where they meet. This means that the plates don't slide freely. Instead, the rocks deform, straining until the stress is more than the rocks can handle. Suddenly, the energy stored in the deformed rock is released in the form of heat and seismic waves. The strained rocks suddenly resume their undeformed state. The whole process is called elastic rebound theory. It's like stretching out a rubber band. As increasingly more deforming force is applied, the band becomes more distorted. If the force continues, the band will break, and the stored energy will be suddenly released. Similarly, Earth's crust stores elastic stress that gradually builds up until its sudden release during an earthquake. Elastic rebound theory explains how earthquakes result in ground movement and why they most often occur on fault lines. Elastic rebound theory provides scientists with a model that allows them to forecast the probability and severity of an earthquake in a fault zone where they have sufficient historical information. The well-studied San Andreas Fault that runs through California is located where the North American plate slides past the Pacific plate. Researchers of the San Andreas Fault have determined that sections of the fault have accumulated sufficient strain to produce a major earthquake in the near future.
In this lesson, we learned that most faults are formed by plates sliding past each other. The friction between the rocks along faults causes pressure to build up, and when enough strain is built up, the rocks break, releasing their energy. The energy that's released when the rocks break is what causes earthquakes. Elastic rebound theory explains why earthquakes happen along faults as the rocks deform and then snap back to their original state, much like a rubber band that's stretched and breaks.